What happens when a romance once hidden in the shadows bursts into the blinding light of public attention? The entertainment world is reeling as whispers turn into shouts. Park Jin-young and Kim Yoo-jung's secret relationship has stepped boldly into view, sending fans into a frenzy of disbelief and excitement. From quiet glances to undeniable proof, the truth is finally out. Red carpet revealed takes you inside the moments, the clues, and the explosive reveal that no one saw coming. It began as a whisper in the back corridors of the entertainment industry. A rumor so improbable that even the most imaginative fanfiction writers wouldn't dare commit it to words. Park Jin-young, the multi-talented singer, songwriter, and producer whose meticulous image control was as famous as his music, linked romantically to Kim Yoo-jung, nation's sweetheart and one of the most respected actresses of her generation. For years, they had existed in parallel worlds, his filled with the polished precision of K-pop artistry and high-stakes business dealings, hers steeped in the artistry of cinema and television, where authenticity was her currency. That these worlds might have collided in a secret romance seemed, to many, a fantasy. And then, one Friday night, the fantasy became news. It started with a photograph. Grainy but damning. It appeared on a gossip forum frequented by industry insiders and sharp-eyed fans. The image showed a man in a baseball cap and a woman in an oversized hoodie. Their faces partially obscured but their body language intimate, unmistakable. They were walking down a dimly lit street, their hands brushing as if the rest of the world had melted away. The caption beneath was simple, "Spotted in Hanam Dong last night. You won't believe who." At first, the response was cautious curiosity. But within hours, higher resolution images began to surface, this time clearly showing the pair. Park Jin-young's unmistakable profile, Kim Yoo-jung's delicate features framed by her hair spilling from under a cap. They weren't holding hands, but the space between them was charged. Onlookers noted how he angled his body slightly toward hers as they walked, how she tilted her head when he spoke, listening intently. It was not the careful, staged friendliness of a media event. It was private. It was real. Social media erupted. Hashtags began to trend. Jin-young Yoo-jung. Secret love revealed. Can't believe it's true. Some fans refused to believe it, dismissing the photos as clever Photoshop work. Others zoomed in on the images, comparing clothing, accessories, even the stride of their walk to known appearances. By morning, the evidence was irrefutable. News outlets picked up the story. Entertainment reporters camped outside the gates of both their management agencies. While both stars had been linked to others in the past, fleeting, speculative headlines that faded in days, this felt different. The images were intimate without being scandalous, authentic without being staged. They suggested not a casual acquaintance but a relationship with history. Kim Yoo-jung had been filming a historical drama in recent months, her schedule grueling in public. Park Jin-young, meanwhile, was deep into preparations for a new project under his label. When had they even had the time to meet? Fans began piecing together timelines, pulling from months of interviews, Instagram posts, and fan-taken airport photos. There were coincidences, overlapping trips abroad, captions posted within hours of each other, spotted at a particular cafe in Gangnam weeks apart. At the time, these details had seemed insignificant. Now, they looked like pieces of a puzzle. Theories flourished. Some believed they had met at a charity gala 2 years prior, where both had been guests of honor. Swore it was during a late-night variety show appearance, when they were paired for a brief segment that, in hindsight, seemed charged with unusual chemistry. From that show resurfaced, with fans dissecting every glance and smile. In the midst of the frenzy, neither Park Jin-young nor Kim Yoo-jung issued a statement. Their agencies maintained a cool silence, responding only to confirm they were aware of the reports. This, more than anything, poured fuel on the fire. Lack of outright denial was, to many, a tacit admission. The first time they were seen after the leak was at an industry event neither could easily skip, a fashion brand launch where both had long-standing commitments. It was a powder keg of anticipation. The venue was thronged with reporters, air electric with speculation. Would they arrive together? Would they avoid each other entirely? Kim Yoo-jung entered first, luminous in a sleek black dress that contrasted with her soft waves and understated makeup. She smiled for the cameras, her poise unshaken. though those who watched closely noticed the slightest hitch in her breath when a question about recent news was shouted from the crowd. She gave no answer, gliding forward to greet the hosts. 15 minutes later, Park Jin-young arrived, dressed in a tailored navy suit. He carried himself with a calm that felt deliberate, almost defiant. He posed for photos, exchanged pleasantries. But the undercurrent of tension was palpable. When he and Kim Yoo-jung finally occupied the same space, a mingling area just off the main floor, the cameras clicked like on fire. They didn't touch, but they didn't avoid each other. At one point, their eyes met across the room, and in that fraction of a second, the noise seemed to drop away. It was enough. Enough for fans to freeze frame and share. Enough for columnists to write about the look that said everything. As the event wound down, the two left separately, but by then, the story had grown legs of its own. Fans were no longer debating if they were together, they were speculating on how long it had been, and how they had managed to keep it hidden for so long. By the end of the week, one thing was certain: this was not a rumor destined to fade. It was the beginning of a narrative that would dominate headlines, a love story that, whether they wanted it or not, was no longer theirs alone. Days that followed the reveal were a masterclass in how quickly public opinion can shift. In the beginning, shock dominated the discourse. How did we not see this coming, was the question on every fan forum. But as more details, some confirmed, many speculative, emerged, the tone began to change. One catalyst for this shift was a video clip that surfaced from a private rap party months earlier for a drama in which Kim Yoo-jung had starred. In the grainy footage, seen greeting guests warmly, then breaking into an unguarded smile when Park Jin-young appears at the doorway. He wasn't part of the production, yet there he was, slipping in quietly and heading straight toward her. He exchanged a few words. She touched his arm lightly. He laughed in that way friends and loved ones do when they share an inside joke. For fans, it was confirmation that their connection predated the leaked photos. Online, the narrative evolved from scandal to fascination. Articles shifted focus from the leak itself to the question of how they had sustained a relationship under the relentless watch of the media. Interviews with unnamed industry insiders painted a picture of two professionals who valued discretion above all else. Eating in out-of-the-way restaurants, avoiding the obvious celebrity haunts, and relying on a tight circle of trusted friends. Their first major public appearance after the leak came at a charity fundraiser. Again, arrived separately, but fate, or perhaps the seating chart, placed them at the same table. In the images captured that night, their action was warmer, freer. They were seen leaning in to speak, smiling easily, having quiet asides that left her laughing. It was not a declaration, but it was enough to suggest that the reveal hadn't fractured their bond. Behind the scenes, friends spoke of how they had weathered the initial storm together. Park Jin-young, known for his discipline and work ethic, reportedly been the one to reassure her when the pressure mounted. Kim Yoo-jung, in turn, reminded him to take moments to breathe, to not let the noise drown out the reality of what they shared. Weeks turned into months. The public's view softened further. Brands began to express interest in joint endorsements, seeing them not as a liability but as a potential power couple whose combined appeal was unmatched. The pair, ever cautious, chose selectively, agreeing to a campaign for a luxury watch brand where they didn't appear together in the same frame. But the marketing subtly hinted at their connection. Came the awards season. Both were nominated for different categories at a prestigious ceremony. The tension in the room when they were both announced as winners in their respective fields was palpable. Cameras caught him clapping a little longer for her, caught her looking his way when she thanked those who stand by me, always. The coded language only fueled speculation. By now, the tone of fan discussion had shifted entirely. What had begun as disbelief was now pride. They were no longer seen as two separate celebrities caught in an unlikely romance, they were seen as a team, navigating the complexities of fame together. The culmination of this new chapter came during a quiet moment at Incheon Airport. They had both been on separate schedules abroad but returned on the same day. Paparazzi photos showed them walking just a few paces apart, dressed casually, faces mostly hidden. But then, they approached the exit. He slowed his pace until she caught up. For a brief moment, hands brushed, an unguarded, fleeting touch that said more than any public statement could. In that image, fans saw the truth. Theirs was not a story crafted for cameras. It was built in quiet moments, The choice to walk side by side when it would have been easier to walk alone. In the shared glances that held a history no headline could fully capture. What had started as a secret was now, undeniably, one of the most talked about love stories in the Korean entertainment world. And while the world might never know every detail, thing was certain, this was a romance that had endured not despite the spotlight, but alongside it. Park Jin-young and Kim Yoo-jung. The secret was no longer theirs, but the love at its heart remained untouched. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unexpected and heartwarming love story of Park Jin-young and Kim Yoo-jung. Your curiosity and passion for uncovering the truth behind the headlines inspire us to keep bringing you the stories that matter. If you enjoyed this article, don't forget to like it and share it with fellow fans who can't get enough of the latest in entertainment. Subscribe to Red Carpet Revealed so you never miss an update. The notification bell to be the first to know when our next big story drops. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe this is the romance of the year? Share your opinions and actions in the comments below. Your voice keeps the conversation alive.